Welcome back to the DOCOVA channel. In this video, we're going to talk about the app builder. Stay tuned. Okay, so in this video, we're going to talk about the app builder. The app builder is DOCOVA's built-in IDE or integrated development environment. And in my next video, I'm going to talk about creating applications. So we're going to create a simple application stuff. But before we can do that, we need to know a little bit about the app builder and what it can do and how to navigate it. It's quite simple, quite clear, and you'll find, I think, compared to other solutions. And yeah, so let's get at it. All right, so what you can see right now is, again, my workspace, pretty much the standard workspace that you get when you initially come in, so I'm not changing that up. On the top left-hand side here, you're going to see the Element Demos application. Now, we put a lot of examples in the Element Demos application, and that application is in the App Store. So in your DOCOVA environment, go into the App Store, add the Element Demos application, and you'll see a whole slew. It's not everything, but there's a whole slew of demonstrations of different design elements and stuff and functionality in that application. I'm going to be using that application a lot when I do these YouTube videos because that way you can have the application in your system, you can see what it's like, you can see what I've done in more detail in these videos, and then comment, ask questions, and so on. Okay, so it should be a nice synergistic marriage there. Okay, so the app builder. First of all, what we're going to talk about is how to get to the app builder. So I'm going to move my little picture over here a little bit. So one way to get into the app builder is to click on the application menu in the top right of any application. So in here, you can see that you can open the application, make a copy of the application, update the design, stuff like that. Today we're talking about the app builder, so you can open this application in the app builder. So when you click from an app, it will launch the app builder and take you right to that application. Okay, so that's what we're going to do today, but I'm going to show you another way to launch it, is the app builder as an application itself. You can come down to the system apps, and if you are IT and you have admin access, or IT is given you as a citizen developer access, then you'll see the app builder show up and be available to you here, and you can launch it from here too. But just probably the most convenient and most used way is to click on the application that you want to go to and say open it in the app builder. So I'm going to click on this menu item, and you'll see that it launches open the app builder for me. So this is it, pretty simple. And by default, it opens to the Element Demos application you can see here. Okay, so just quickly, I'm going to talk about these tabs on the top left. So the top tab is your listing of applications that you have in your app builder. So I have an X here beside all of them. I can remove these. I really probably have too many here, but I can remove any of these. So let's go ahead. I'm going to go down to the Sudoku. I don't need that here. So if I click the X, it'll say, hey, you know what? You're about to remove this from your app builder. Are you sure? This doesn't delete the application. It just removes it from your IDE interface or your app builder interface. So I'm going to say yes, and you'll see it removes it there. Really, I should only have maybe 5 apps or something in the left here, but there you go. Okay, so and underneath that, there's another tab, and this is widgets, and there are system widgets. So if I click on that, you'll see system widgets, and if you have access, you can turn these on and off for your users. You can also create custom widgets and make them system widgets. And that just determines how they look for your workspace and for your dashboard when you're adding and removing them. More about widgets later in a subsequent video coming in the weeks coming. There'll be in the coming weeks when I do more videos. You'll see more detail on widgets and how to create custom widgets, super easy, and how to control what's available to users and so on. Okay, so that's what the 2 tabs on the very far left side are. So I'm going to go back to the Applications tab, and I'm just going to expand this slightly. Okay, And I'm going to come back down to my element demos application here. And you'll see as you click on an app that it's an accordion style display for all of your applications. And every application has the same design elements in it. So you'll see properties. If we go to the top under element demos, the top, you have properties, which are the properties for your app. We'll go into that in a subsequent video. Each one of these design elements are going to have their own video. Forms, views. Forms will probably have several videos because there's about 40 form design elements that you can use, and they all have their own properties and behaviors that will go through. Lots of information there. Same with views. Layouts. Layouts help you control how the design of your application is laid out, where your menus are, where your views are, and so on. You can have multiple layouts in an application. We'll go through that in a subsequent video. Pages, subforms, menus, horizontal, vertical, icon only, cascading menus and stuff like that. We'll go through videos on those. JavaScript, so you can have your own JavaScript library, and this speaks to IT out there. If IT out there wants to create their own JavaScript libraries, you can have your libraries in your application here. Agents. Agents are also code that you can write and schedule. So these agents, when you create your code, you can have them be scheduled to run, every 15 minutes or half an hour, or daily or weekly, that sort of thing. So it's a very powerful part of your application. Script libraries, so these are back-end. This is back-end code that you can write as libraries as well and leverage them with your agents or other ways, which we'll go through in the future. Images or image resources. This is where you can add images like logos and things like that to your app to use them in your forms or in your pages and stuff like that. CSS, so this is cascading style sheets. You can add your own cascading or create your own cascading style sheets for the application and manage them there. So in terms of the JavaScript and the CSS, you can also, when you're creating forms and views and stuff, you can apply CSS right to the element. So you can click on some text that you have and give it, make it green or whatever. You don't have to have a CSS that manages it for your whole app. You can if you want, or just directly apply CSS and JavaScript, right? And you'll see as we go through in subsequent videos here. And then workflow. Of course, we have flowchart type of workflow that you can assemble, and that makes it nice and easy for you to, and you can have multiple workflows per application. And typically these workflows are for these apps. Okay, so I'm going to click on the forms under the Element Demos application, and what I get here is a list of forms that I have in this application. Now, in this particular app, there's about 40 forms. That's because we're demonstrating a whole bunch of different things in this particular application. So if we were to talk about, like, in our app store, our expense app, for example, I think it has 3 forms. So one form for the expense item, one for the expense report, which consolidates expense items and then approves them or whatever. And then I think we have a settings form in there where you can create settings for the application, like how much you're paying per kilometer, per mile, for mileage expense, and that sort of thing, with currency or whatever it is that you set up in the settings there. Just to give you an idea that, the Element Demos has a lot of forms in it. You could have applications that have 40 forms in it too, or you could have one that has 10 forms that do different things, or, depending on what it is, like the expense app that has 3 forms. Okay. So the important thing about this is that aside from properties, properties opens up just a properties form where you set properties, but forms, views, layouts, pages, you can have several of each of those, and so you're presented with a listing, for each of those design element types. And so in this case, you can see at the top when I've clicked on forms, it opens up a forms tab and shows me all the forms in this application. So the first column here is the name of the form. or of the design element. You can typically have an alias for that. We'll get into why you might want an alias for forms in the future, or other design elements, not just forms. Tells you when the last time it was modified, who modified it last, and prohibit update is the last column here. So the prohibit update we'll go through is kind of a DevOps kind of thing. If you're using templates and things like that, and you have design elements, then your forms can be updated from a template. So you can say, replace the design of this application with that template, or the template that was used to create it. But maybe you made a modification to a form and you don't want this particular form updated by the template. You can go and say prohibit the update on this particular design element, forms or views or pages or whatever, and you can lock that down more, so that for the most part you're using this whole template, but you're still maintaining those specific custom things of this particular app, that kind of thing. Okay, so just has that. That's what that column means. Okay, and so if I go to views too, it's the same thing. Here's the list of views inside this application. Again, a lot in this particular application just because it's a demo application. Okay, so if I go back to forms here, I just wanted to talk about at the top. So you'll see action buttons. So there's a new form. So under views, it'll be a new view. Under layouts, it'll be a new layout and stuff. So if I click on that in forms, it'll create a new form for me. And so there's a form. We're going to go through forms and all the design elements in a form in subsequent videos here. The next button over action button that's on several of these listings as well for views and layouts and pages and stuff is import form or view or whatever it is. And that is a specific import of a design element from a Lotus Notes database. So we're going to have a subsequent video showing how you can migrate Lotus Notes applications into DOCOVA, and how we're probably the most sophisticated import for those applications, in that we import the code and stuff. So we'll go over all that in terms of the migration video. But just to say that you can import whole applications, but you'll see here in particular for particular design items like views and forms and stuff like that, that you can also import individual design elements from Notes databases. Okay, so also I want to talk about the right click. So you'll see that there's a selection margin beside the design elements here, each of the forms here. And so you can open a form or copy them, copy selected. So if you've selected several, then you can copy them. I'm just going to talk about delete. So you can delete a separate, a form, or delete selected forms from an application. If you remember when we came into the app builder, it says, you can make a copy of an app. So if you already have an application, you can right click and make a copy of that application. So it doesn't have to be like you created it from scratch. You can copy an app, or you can create an app from a template. So we're going to go through that in creating apps in the next video. But here, what I want to point out is that you can copy particular design elements from one app to another too. So you might say, oh, you know what, I've been creating this other app, and I want to create another form in that application, whatever it is. And you know what, I already have a form in an application that I already have that's very similar. So I want to copy it, or view, copy it over to that application and paste it. And so you can copy a form from one application or a view from one application over and paste it into another application. You can do that with pages, menus, subforms, and so on. So it's just, another demonstration of how DOCOVA is very powerful. Everybody talks about, oh, you got to create a template and then you can create your app from the template or whatever. Right? You shouldn't have to deal with relational databases or relational tables or anything like that in your applications. And you should be able to copy design elements from one app to another and make copies of your apps and create apps from templates and so on. And so I just want to stress that in showing the power, and more and more it will become evident, but the power of our integrated development environment here in DOCOVA, our app builder, and how easy it is to help you quickly develop your applications. Okay, so that's enough about the app builder for now. Our subsequent videos are going to talk about creating apps. So we'll go through creating applications just so you can get started and try it out. Even the one that I do here, you can do on your own environment, just as for fun, just to practice. And then we'll start getting into all the design elements, like the forms and all the elements that you can use in your forms and building forms and mobile forms. So the whole point being that you build your application in the app builder, and then DOCOVA, the platform, writes all the code and generates the application for you. All right, so that's it for now. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, click the notification bell, comment, ask questions, and we'll see you in the next video. Thanks a lot.